right. So the other day we were talking about saving. And what's the point of savings? And how is savings different from investing? What are some things that you would save for? Well, first off, where would you save your money? In the bank, credit union, something like that. Okay. And what types of things would you put money in the bank or the credit union for? Okay. One of the first inclinations is to say retirement. You can put it there. Okay. Please, a house, car, Christmas, vacations, kids' college. These are all things that you need to build up a pile of money for, aren't they? The thing to realize is that it's a very good list that you've come up with. And depending which item it is on the list, you're going to put that money in different places. Don't put them all in the same place. Okay? First thing, this is a prejudice, a bias of Chuck. I do not do business with banks. Nada. Dude, what do? Put your money in a coffee can out in the back? I work with credit unions. There is a big difference. A bank is owned by the shareholders. A bank works for the shareholders, and the primary objective of a bank is to make money off of the people who have their checking and savings account there and their loans there. Their primary objective is to make money off of you. Now, will they treat you nicely? Yes. Why do they treat you nicely? They want you to come back so they can get more of your money. A credit union is different. In a credit union, you are part owner in that institution. Do you get treated different as an owner than you would as just a customer? Okay. If you were the owner of the Cincinnati Reds, do you think you get treated a little differently than if you're just a ticket holder for the Cincinnati Reds? All the way. Okay. Becky and I have done a fair amount with the credit union that we're with, and they are incredibly flexible with us. As an example, when it came time to buy the farm, we didn't have the money to just go, chunk, there it is. There wasn't a bank in town that would loan us money on a farm. Why? We don't do farms. It's a business. You need a business loan and a special type of business loan, a farm business loan. 9%, 7%, 8%. I went to the credit union and I talked to Linda. I said, hey Linda, she's the loan officer there. We want to buy this farm. Interested in taking out a loan. And she said, Chuck, we don't do farm loans. And I said, I know you don't do farm loans, but can you help us with this? Now, what would a bank say right there? There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. But remember us when you want a checking account. Or a credit card. Yeah, baby. Really remember us when you want a credit card. We'll make 20% off it. But Linda got this smile on her face and said, I got an idea. Come back to me next week. So I came back a week later and she said, we got your loan set up. I said, how'd you do that? A week ago you said that. And she said, okay. So what I did was I went to the board of trustees. In the bank, do you think the loan officer would make the effort to go and meet with the people on the board? Sorry. No, she did. And she sat down with them and she got out the stuff from our history there. And she said, they're good, they're reliable, they're good for the money. And the board said, I don't know, we don't do farms. And this was great. Linda said, don't think of this as a farm, think of it as a house with a really big backyard. And the board laughed. They said, give it to them. We got a loan at 3%. That's the difference between a bank and a credit union. The credit unions will work with you. They are a much better place than a bank. Okay? That's Chuck's preference. That's been Chuck's experience. Okay? Just something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's talk about some of these things you've mentioned. I heard retirement. I heard college for the kids. Car. Vacation. What were some of the other things that you've mentioned? Please? Holidays. Thank you. Yeah. Things like Christmas. That's usually an expensive holiday. You get the idea. So here's a list. Some of those should land in the credit union. Some of them not so much. Some of them in different places in the credit union. Different places in the credit union? I thought you just walked in and it's just one place. Yeah, but your money can go in different directions once you get there. Retirement never goes in the bank. This gets invested. Now, as you get closer to retirement, we'll talk about that. Okay? College for the kids. There are special tax accounts, various accounts, things like that for college. Okay? Becky's mom used to give us birthdays, anniversary, Christmas presents. And one year I got the idea and I talked to Becky about it. She said, sounds good. So he went to Becky's mom and said, you know, we really love the gifts. We really appreciate the thought. You know what would really be neat and would be more of a legacy type thing? And she said, what? I said, invest the money, half of it for Daniel's college, half of it for Lauren's college. And she said, you don't want presents? It'd be better. The kids will remember you better this way. So what we did is Becky and I gave up whatever presents and told her just invest it. She took it and she invested it. Well, this year she turned over a big check to Lauren. In a couple of years, guess what Daniel's going to get? A big check. The money was invested in mutual funds and it grew. It grew a whole lot more than what Lauren was expecting. She was surprised. It was a good chunk of money. Okay? So college is something long-term you want to invest. Cars. That is something that you're going to buy fairly frequently. Depends on the person. Okay? I buy them at a rate of about one every 12 or 15 years. When the wheels finally fall off and it won't run anymore, it's time for a new car. Okay? Some people buy them more frequently. I try to keep Becky in newer cars than that. Okay? I don't care if I got to work on it. I don't want her having a car she's got to work on. So where do you put money for cars? Well, you put them in stuff like a CD. Why? Because it's easier to get at, it's more liquid, and it has a little bit higher rate of return, but it's safe. It's not going to disappear on you. Investments can go up and down, which we'll talk about. Vacations. How often do you go on vacation? Hopefully every year. Sometimes it winds up being every third year or so for us. But vacation, as well as Christmas, are well, how often does Christmas come around? Every year. Okay? Those are the kinds of things where the money's not going to be there very long. A year is not very long financially. I just stick those into savings accounts because it's real easy to get at anytime we need it. On vacations, if, whoa, look at this. We got some time next weekend. Let's get out of here. Run to the bank, pull a little bit of money out of the vacation fund, and we're gone. It took how much time to get that money out of the credit union? Well, however much time it took to drive there and back, right? Plus another 2 minutes to say, hey, sign up, those little signing things that they have now, those little pads, and get my money and leave. That's called liquidity. How liquid means how easy is it to get. When it's invested, it takes a while. Okay? The other day we were talking about stocks. and I think I kind of hit upon or started talking about, think of a stock as being like a house. Okay? You get together with some friends or family and you decide, you know what? We would love to have a vacation house. Everybody loves going to Upper Michigan. I found this really cool house that overlooks Lake Superior. It's gorgeous. It's in the woods. It's the smell of pine when you walk out. The sky is blue. The grass is green. Gorgeous house. Cost $400,000. And the rest of the family says, wow, didn't know you had $400,000 to buy a vacation house. I don't, but I've got an idea. We're all going to put our money together. Okay, I've got a brother and two sisters. Each of us is going to kick in $100,000, and we're going to buy the house. Okay? Wouldn't really work in our family. Now everybody's got $100,000 to throw in. But this is just a story. So everybody throws in $100,000. I throw in my $100,000. Now, we buy the house. Who owns the house? We all do, don't we? My sister Holly, my sister Nancy, my brother Greg, and I own the house. Yeah, but which of you owns the house? We all own it equally, together. That's the way stock works. Now, they break it up into smaller pieces in that to make it more affordable. So, for example, GE, I didn't check what it's selling for right now. I don't know, maybe you have any idea where GE is? I'm guessing maybe $40, something like that. Does that sound fairly reasonable? Let's say GE's selling for $40 a share. That means that I could buy a part of GE for $40. Now, am I going to get a huge chunk of General Electric for $40? No, it's going to be a pretty small part, isn't it? But I'm part owner. Just like if Daniel, my son, says, I'd like to be part owner in that vacation house. Here's $10. Does he own part of it? Yeah. Does he own much of it? No. Maybe a couple of rocks out in the yard. Okay? But he owns something. Stock works the same way. You buy each share of stock as a little bitty piece of it. Now, if you just own a couple of shares, great. You own a couple of rocks out in the driveway. If you own a bunch of shares, maybe you own the kitchen. Okay? And the more shares you own, the more of the company you own. That also means that if the house goes up in value, let's say it goes up to $500,000, your piece goes up. With just the four of us owning it, that's an extra $100,000, so each of us would get $25,000 if we sold it, right? We get our $100,000 back plus another $25,000. Now, with Daniel in on the deal, he'd get his $10 back and maybe another nickel. But he'd get more back than what he put in. On the flip side, the neighborhood goes bad. Or they find out, oh man, that cliff's washing out underneath. The house is about ready to fall into Lake Superior. What's the value of the house going to be? More or less? Less. And we sell it for $200,000. Somebody knows the house is gone, but it's still a nice site. I'll build a new house after the old one sinks into Lake Superior. They give us $200,000. Okay. Between the four of us, how much does each of us get then? $50,000. Well, wait a minute, dude. You put in $100,000, all you're getting back is $50,000? That can happen. If it goes down in value and you sell it, you've lost money. Now, for Daniel, he put in $10, and when we sell it, he may only get a nickel back. So he lost basically his $10, didn't he? Really, dude? I gave you 10 and I get a nickel? That's the way it goes some days. This is how stocks work. You've got to be careful. You've got to do your homework. You've got to understand where things are headed, where the market is headed. Okay? It can be a way to make some money. It can be a way to lose money. Stocks also pay what is called a dividend. Going back to the example of the vacation house. Okay? We rent it out for 2 weeks. And we get $2,000 from renting it out to somebody else. If it's just the four of us owning the place, of that $2,000, how much of it comes back to me? Well, it'll be a fourth of $2,000. Oh, I get $500, don't I? Holly gets $500. Nancy gets $500. Greg gets $500. Daniel gets a penny. He gets a little bit, but he only owns a couple of rocks out in the driveway. Dividends are money that is split up. Okay? Doesn't have to be every quarter. Some companies really don't pay dividends. Some do. Okay? It's split up whenever they decide they're going to, but what they'll do is they take some of the profits and they split it up between everybody who is an owner in it. Okay? So the dividends are kind of the equivalent of if we rent out our vacation house, the money that we get from the rent gets split between all of us. Does that make sense? With stocks, you're buying into a company. You're investing in it. You only get your money out when you sell it. It is possible to get some money out along the way in the form of dividends. Now, one of the things that can happen with a stock, and this happens to GE every once in a while, is the price goes up and up and up. And the board and others decide, the price is higher than we really want it to be. We don't want the price of a share to be $300. That's too expensive. Who's going to buy it at $300 a share? Not as many people. We want to keep it down around $40. So if the price gets up to, let's say, $80, they may decide to split shares. That means Chuck used to own 1/4 of the house. But what they do now is we're going to make 8 pieces of paper that say, I own the house. Before I had how many pieces of paper that said I own the house? I had 1, right? Now I have 2. When it splits, I get 2. I still get the same percentage of share in the company or house as I had before. It's just that I've got 2. And by splitting it and doubling it, what happens to the value of each share? It goes down. And they try and control the per share cost. Does that make sense? So at times that can happen. You can wind up with more shares that way. It's happened with my mom on GE. She's just bought some stock way back, and she's just held on to it since way back, and it splits, and it splits. And each time it splits, it eventually grows some more, and then it splits, and it grows some more. So she's making money on it that way, but the only way she can get the money back is if she sells the shares. Okay? You can gain or you can lose. Who knows what, you try and do your research, try to understand the area, and go with it. Bonds. Usually works with municipalities. What's a municipality? That's a city. Okay? The government, or sometimes with corporations. The idea here is a city or the government at a larger level, like at the state level, has some project they want to get going. For whatever reason, Cincinnati decides we want to put down more tracks for streetcars. We need another $2 million. Well, we don't have it. So what they do is they tell everybody, hey, we need $2 million. We're selling bonds. Selling. Okay? So for example, you buy $10,000 worth. I know you don't have $10,000 today, but give it some time after you get a job. Okay? You decide to invest in Cincinnati. One of the advantages to bonds are usually a city does not go bankrupt, unless it's something like Detroit. Detroit went bankrupt. Hey, did you hear what country's government failed recently? It's been kind of quiet. It's Finland. Did you know Finland went belly up? The government did. Do you know why? socialist country. They're spending more than they could possibly ever get together. Okay? The government collapsed because the bills that they have, all the free stuff they've promised, they didn't have enough people to pay for it. There's nothing free. You got to get in somebody's wallet for it every time you give it. Okay, but anyway, cities usually don't go bankrupt. So sometimes people will buy into this kind of stuff. My wife's grandparents did when they got in their 80s because they were more concerned about being able to get their money back than about making 12% on it. Oh, give us 30 years and we'll make you... Really, at 80, do you have 30 years to worry about it? Grandpa used to joke. He said, I don't even buy green bananas anymore. How long does it take a banana to go from green to ripe? A few days. What was his comment on? What do you mean by that? Yeah, I have no idea. You know, I'm in my 90s now, and I'm feeling okay today, but there's no guarantee of tomorrow. So what they did was they would shift from investing in mutual funds and stuff where it might make sense if you've got 20 or 30 years to things like bonds, short-term bonds, where they can get it back in a year or 2 years or whatever the term of the bond is. But the catch on bonds is they always pay in simple interest. So if, for example, you buy a bond for $10,000 and they're going to offer it at 3%, that means that each year you get $300. It doesn't compound, it doesn't build on itself, you just get $300. Now the city and the people investing both know, this is not the best way to compound interest. So what the city or the state does to try and make up for the fact that, yeah, we know this is a pretty cheesy way to do interest, tell you what, we won't charge you any tax on it. So they're trying to make it up by not charging you tax on it. To make it a little more attractive. Okay? So there is a way to park some money. At this point in your life, I wouldn't mess much with bonds. That's usually for a little bit later in life. Cash. What are some cash ways? Well, I can keep it in my wallet. Yeah, right. Money you deposit into the credit union. What do you do with money that you need short term? You don't need it for right now today, but you know you're going to need it because Thanksgiving's coming and Christmas are coming. Both of them are coming. You need to start saving some money. At this point, I just stick it in a savings account. Not much time left. If you've got a little bit of time, park it in CDs. You mean buy music? No, not that kind of CD. These are called certificates of deposit. With certificates of deposit, you can get them for as short as sometimes even 3, but usually 6 months, a year, a couple of years. What the deal is with these is you go to the credit union or bank. It's one of those 4-letter words I try not to use. Okay? And you say, hey, I've got this money, $500. I don't need it right now. If I promise not to come back for it for 2 years, and they say, oh yeah, we'll put it in a CD, we'll give you a higher rate of return, we'll pay you more interest, but you can't come back for 2 years. Now, why does the credit union not want you to come back for 2 years? Because they're going to take that money and they're going to loan it out, and they need to know, we've got control of this money for 2 years. Does that make sense? What are you giving up for telling them we won't be back for 2 years? You get a higher interest rate. They're paying you more money. So what's this useful for? Well, how about a car? Yeah, I guess in 4 or 5 years, going to buy another car. Okay, so I'm not going to need the money for 4 or 5 years, so throw it in there. Because I know it's not going to go up and down like stocks will. I know it's going to be there. It's going to make a little more interest. And with the credit union we're with, if something crazy goes, I can run in today and I can cash in our CDs. There's a penalty. They take away the last quarter's interest. So I lose a little bit of money, but all the interest before that I get to keep. So it's not a bad place to park money. Does that make sense? But that's for things that you're going to need in the next couple of years type of stuff. The kids have some CDs. We just keep flipping them over in case there's something they need or whatever. Okay? Treasury bills, okay, run about the same as the bonds, things like that. Okay, when you are looking at investing, there are some things that you need to consider. A biggie factor is liquidity. Okay? Things like retirement and saving for your kid's college. When your kid is born, when are you going to need that money? Next week? No, like 18 years, right? So you got some time. You don't have to get at it right away. You do not need to put it into an account that's very liquid. In other words, I can run down and get it today. Our savings account, our checking account, and our CDs, we can get any of those today. The CDs at a penalty. Checking, savings, no penalty. Of course, they're not paying anything on interest to speak of. Okay. If you put money into retirement and then decide, oh, I want to buy a new house or something like that, first off, you can't take money out of retirement for just anything. Well, you can, except the IRS is going to talk to you. Daniel keeps asking me, Dad, wouldn't you really rather have a cool car? Yeah. Well, why don't you get rid of your car and buy a cool car? Mine's paid for and gets 33 miles to the gallon. Wouldn't you rather have one of those Vets? You keep talking about those new mid-engine Corvettes. Yeah. Wouldn't you like one? Well, sure, I'm not an idiot. Okay. Well, why don't you buy one? You got it in retirement. Yeah. I'm not touching that, though. What would happen if I took $100,000 out of retirement to buy a Vet? Well, first off, Becky would beat me.
That sounds like my mom's reaction when my dad ever told her how much he paid for that antique table for her birthday.
Oh, well, it was a gift for her, so that's a little...
Yeah, she would kill him if she knew how much he spent on that.
So it's just part of one of the family secrets.
To walk, just go hunting down for sport.
Okay, well, it sounds like you probably paid cash on it, though, what I've gathered from which you've made comment of it. I'm guessing they had the money and he just paid it. More than your mom would have paid, but your dad loves your mom and he wanted her to have it, so he just paid it. Okay? Corvette. I'm buying this for me. Okay? I pull $100,000 out of my retirement. There, please? Yeah. First off, that's stupid. Why is it stupid to go pull money out of your retirement for cars and stuff? There's a penalty. That's right. When I buy the car, it's no longer worth $100,000. It's now worth like $95,000, maybe $90,000. But the IRS is going to get hold of me and say, Chuck, about that $100,000. Yeah, I want to go for a ride in my new car. Yeah, well, we'll talk about what you owe us in the way of taxes. You know how much the IRS charges you in penalty if you pull money out of your retirement? Right around 50%. That means that if I pull out $100,000 for my Corvette, how much is the IRS going to take away from me? $50,000 of the $100,000. And I still don't have my Corvette. Maybe I've got a Camry and some gas money. Okay? So realize the liquidity and the consequences of putting money in different places. Risk. Different people have different levels of risk that they can tolerate. Okay? When I go to Kings Island, people tell me that there are other rides. I didn't know that there was anything other than roller coasters at Kings Island. When I go there, all I see are roller coasters. Okay? And that's all I ride. Other people are not quite so risky. They'll ride things like, I don't know, what are some of the other, what would be a boring ride at Kings Island? Okay, notice I have to ask because I don't even know. To me, a boring ride is the Red Racer. Daniel and I go on that. We'll ride it 8 or 9 times to warm up, and then we go from there. Okay? That's our warm-up ride. Okay, so some other people, they just ride some of these other things that you mentioned. Apparently they have other rides. Okay? If you stay awake all night every night and never get any sleep because, oh my God, did it go down in value? You got your money in the wrong place. If you can't tolerate the risk, don't put it there. Return. Okay? Well, why would people want to put their money into things that are more risky? Because there's typically more likelihood of a bigger return there than putting it someplace else. P&G, they're a big company, aren't they? Are they going to go belly up tomorrow? Probably not. Okay? Of course, who would have seen Finland going belly up? Well, anybody knows how socialism works. Okay? Anyway. But with P&G, do you get huge increases in income? Nah, they pretty much go along, and you know what they're going to do from quarter to quarter. They're going to sell more soap, they're going to sell more diapers, they're going to sell more of this and that. But do they pretty well have the whole world flooded with their products? Is there anywhere in the world that you can go and not find Tide detergent? Or Pampers? And go right on down the list of all kinds of things that P&G makes? They've pretty well flooded the whole world, haven't they? Is there any new market for them? Not really here on Earth. Okay. However, let's say you develop a new product that when you add it to water, it turns it into gasoline. Are there many people who are going to be interested in this? Depends on the price. Oh, we sell it for 50 cents a gallon. Ooh, and it takes how many drops to turn water? And everybody's going to want in on this, aren't they? But you don't have any stores. Do you have lots of room to grow and expand? The whole world. You've got a lot of room for potential growth. P&G does not. Okay? P&G is not as risky. Okay? You would be more of a risk. The product looks good, but the question is, do you know how to handle the business and the marketing end of it? Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay? So these are some things you need to take into consideration when you're parking your money in different locations. We'll talk about different types of mutual funds and that kind of stuff here. We're running out of time, obviously. Okay. Did I mess anything up on the stocks and stuff, or is it pretty... I know that we're just glossing over. When you get into this for real, you're going to need to do a little more homework. Or go to a financial advisor. If you don't have the time or the interest... Now, I know we're at the end of the class. I know there's about 3 minutes left. Tune in. This is important. Every financial advisor is going to charge you money. Some of them charge you by the transaction. That means every time they sell a stock or sell a mutual fund, you get charged. You're hoping that they're selling and buying to make you money. However, the only way they make money is by doing what? Selling. It's like a used car dealer. How do they make money? By selling you a car. Are they really concerned about you personally, or are they more concerned about selling that car so that they got money to eat on? Selling the car. Okay? Go to an advisor that works off of a fee. Okay? That means every time you walk in, the half hour is going to cost you a set amount of money. But if you get cruddy advice, are you going to be walking back in? No. Some of them work off of a percentage of the portfolio. The only way they ever make any money is what? If the portfolio goes up in value. How do you get the portfolio to go up in value? You do smart things. Okay? Fee only or portfolio are probably the two wiser ways to go, because the only way that they're going to make any money is if they're making money for you. And that's what it's all about as far as that relationship, right? It's not like you're going to go out to the movies with them or anything like that, are you? No. The only time you're going to see them is, how's my account doing? That's all that relationship is about. It's purely a business relationship. That doesn't mean it's bad and it's awful. It's just, you're obviously going to be nice and friendly and things like relationship is to get your investments going. It's not about seeing how much money you can give to them. So you want to get as much as you can for as little as you can. And they're going to make sure that they're making enough that they're living too. They're going to make a good living. Rest assured of that. Okay? Are you good? Everybody okay?